Welcome. Thanks for joining me in this video where I'm going to give you some ideas and suggestions for how you can work with your appraiser to fine-tune the scope of the appraisal and possibly save you some serious money. The process is best understood if I can give you a little bit of the big picture, and then we can zoom in on certain aspects of that. The big picture is that the appraiser is guided and regulated by our Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, otherwise known as the affectionate acronym USPAP. USPAP pretty much covers everything we do by different standards or chapters. The first chapter talks about the process of creating the appraisal conclusion, the research, the field work, the analysis, the thinking, everything that goes into coming up with a credible opinion of value. That's in Chapter 1, Standard 1. Standard 2 talks about the way you communicate the results to the client. Let's talk about Standard 2 first. You can convey the results of an appraisal verbally or in writing. Now, there are times when a verbal report can do the trick. I just gave one to a client, and it saved them a couple of $1,000s by doing a verbal report. That doesn't work for many situations. Certainly a lender is going to need a full written appraisal report. There's really two ways to submit a written report. One is the conventional book that we think of when we think of a narrative appraisal report, and that's what the standards call it, an appraisal report. It can be 100 pages or more by the time you have all the addenda and everything that goes into the full appraisal report. The other option is the restricted report, and that's one that I want to make sure that we cover here. It is the restricted report, the second written report option, where we can fine-tune, sharpen our pencil, and find ways to perhaps save some money in the assignment. The thing about a restricted report is that it is intended to be used only by the client. The intended user and the client need to be the same entity. Now, you can actually have multiple clients, and that would allow multiple people to use it as long as both are identified that way. If you've got a corporation and you've got officers in a corporation, obviously the officers representing the entity can use it. But there are some limitations, and so you need to be aware of that. But when we are able to do it, we can save hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars on the fee. The restricted report is intended for situations where the client doesn't need a lot of explanation about the subject property, about the neighborhood, the site, the improvements. A lot of those things are greatly simplified, and even sometimes it's just a simple statement in the restricted report. That's not going to work in every case, but for certain users that works just fine. It's possible to actually meet all the requirements of a restricted report in a couple of pages, and we've been given examples by the powers that be that show that. However, many clients would find that the minimal restricted report would be a little too skimpy. And we at Herron have solved that problem by adding a nice little executive summary at the beginning of the report. It's about 1 to 4 pages. And essentially the idea is we give you the big picture and we explain the important points that you need to know about this assignment, the property briefly. If it's not critical, we don't spend much time on it, but there are certain issues that need maybe a whole paragraph explaining something. Other things don't need any explanation at all. So we get straight to the point, might include a couple of spreadsheets, maybe a map, maybe a photo or two, that sort of thing that just cuts straight to the main important points in this report. Now that's all Chapter 2, Standard 2 of our standards, how we communicate the report, right? We can also sometimes trim in the actual Standard 1 effort that goes into the analysis and the research. For example, if you've got a single tenant, single occupant, owner-occupied warehouse building, and you're the buyer or the seller and want to know what this thing is worth, it could be that we just perform a sales comparison approach of other similar buildings. We dispense with the income approach, no cost approach, and possibly a verbal report or a restricted report. For lenders, where they have a portfolio of properties and they want updates, they're not issuing any new funds, the restricted report can be a great option. If the loan amount is very small, there might be times also when a restricted report would work. And there are times when the restricted report could be a great alternative to the evaluation report. That term will mean more to you lenders. And the evaluation is not USPAP compliant necessarily, where the restricted report is. Give us a call if you'd like to talk about that or any of this, even if you have a job that's maybe brewing down the road. Give us a buzz and let us talk that over with you and help you refine that process. Thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of our other videos, and it might be worth sharing this with colleagues in your firm. Thanks so much.